Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks again so much for joining. My name is Elise, and I'm the partner manager here at EzzyBills. If we haven't had a chance to meet yet, um, thanks again for coming. We've got a bit of a smaller crowd today, so I guess it'll be a little bit of a smaller demo. And as I always say, feel free to pop your questions in the chat as we go, and I'll do my best to answer them throughout the presentation. And if not, we will definitely have some time for some Q&A at the end. So a lot of the conversation today will be a little bit higher level. So we'll talk about some of the features and functionality. Some of it we'll have a chance to go through and actually see how it works and how the software processes certain documents. But there'll be a lot of things that you'll have a chance to maybe test out after if that's something that's relevant for you and your business or for your client's business. And our support team and myself are always here and available to answer any questions that you have. So, like we said in our promotional material, we're going to be talking about processing different types of documents with EzzyBills. So, anybody who's been using the software for a while, I'm sure, has gone through the basics of processing supplier invoices, which is probably 80% of the types of documents that we process. But we do process a whole host of other types of documents, and I guess that's what we're going to jump into today, what those other documents are, how to process them, how the system processes them, etc., etc. So we'll just go through sort of an overview of which types of documents we're gonna talk about today. So the first things we're going to talk about is processing bills and really sale invoices. I just couldn't run a whole webinar about different documents that we process without sort of mentioning bills, because obviously, like I said, that's our sort of bread and butter. But the first section will primarily focus on sale invoices and the way that we can process sale invoices if they're generated, let's say, outside of your accounting software by a custom ERP software or something else, and they need to be brought into your accounting software. The second thing we'll mention, probably relatively briefly, is matching supplier invoices with existing purchase orders. So that would be, again, when you've got a purchase order that's created in your accounting software and you've got a supplier invoice that's come through and you want to do that matching process, we can do that as well. The third section, we will speak about supplier statements and remittance advices. So we've basically got functionality where if you receive a statement from your supplier, you can send the supplier statement through to EzzyBills, and that can actually go into your accounting software and check which invoices are there, which invoices have been paid, which invoices haven't been paid, and then generate a report. Fourth, we'll talk about processing different types of documents using email aliases and including different types of information. So for example, if you want to include the attachment that's sent with the email, if you want to include the body of the email that's sent when the invoice is processed, we'll talk about some of those types of things. And then at the end, depending on how much time we've got, we'll speak a little bit about using workflows to process different types of documents. And again, that bit of it starts getting a little bit more complex. So we'll probably just speak about it at a little bit of a high level, and I'll show you sort of an overview of what it looks like. And if you need a little bit more help or are interested in setting up some of those workflows, then our support team is here and available to help. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is processing bills and sale invoices with EzzyBills. So there's a few different ways that we can do that, and I'll show you in our app how we would do that. So the first way to process, so processing bills is very straightforward. I'm sure you've done it. You can process a bill with the mobile app with your unique email address and through drag and drop on the dashboard. So we're going to jump straight into sale invoices and the different ways of processing sale invoices. So the first way, like we can see on this slide, is through the email alias. So if we jump into EzzyBills in the settings menu, in account settings, we can see a whole host of email aliases, and we'll probably come back to these throughout the demo to talk about some of the different types of documents that we can process. But to start, we're just going to mention sale invoices with the first. So one way of getting sale invoices into EzzyBills is just sending them to your company.sale@ezzybills1.com. And it will process as a sale invoice, meaning when it goes into your accounting software, it will come up as a sale invoice as opposed to a bill to pay. The second way is through EzzyBills settings menu. And one of the ways you might determine which one of these aliases, which one of these ways to use is how many sale invoices are you processing. So are you processing primarily sale invoices with a couple of supplier invoices thrown in there, or is it primarily supplier invoices with a couple of sale invoices kind of thrown in? I guess that'll depend on whether you sort of set up your system as a default to process sale or supplier, and go from there. And another option in theory is to set up two separate accounts. So if you're processing a lot of sale invoices and a lot of supplier invoices, you can just have two EzzyBills accounts, and you can process one as sale and one as supplier, both as the default. So you don't need to do different upload aliases. So in the settings menu, in advanced options, we've got this section called sale invoices. And so if you tick this box, then you will process all documents coming through EzzyBills as sale invoices, as you can see in that little pop-up that comes up when I mouse over the setting. And you've also got the option to automatically generate sale invoice numbers. You can also add accounts receivable keywords. And so if you've got specific keywords that denote that your document is a sale invoice, you can put them in that text box, and the system will know that it's a sale invoice based on that. And then you can also have customer keywords, and that's if you've got a customer name that you get sale invoices from. You can put those keywords or that email address in, and you'll be able to, the system will be able to detect that it's a sale invoice and process them appropriately that way. Okay, we can also do drag and drop and email rules. So with drag and drop, so as I'm sure you know, with your dashboard, if you drag and drop into this gray box as a default, it's going to process as a supplier invoice. But if you click on this drop down button, you can change the type of document here. And if it's not on the list, for example, like sale invoice is not, you can just type the word sale in there, and that will process as a sale invoice, and that will basically change the default setting on your account to a sale invoice. The next way of doing it is using email rules, and so this is if you've got an email sync set up. So if you go into email sync, and if you're not familiar with the email sync function, basically it's a way of linking your EzzyBills account to your email. And if you can do it with Office 365 or G Suite account, so it's got to be a paid Google account, paid G Suite account. You can't use just a free Gmail account. And you can go through a series of steps, connect up your email to your EzzyBills account, and either in an automated way or a manual way, have the documents processed straight through EzzyBills. So with the manual way, basically what happens is EzzyBills sets up a folder in your email account, and you can drag and drop your invoices into that EzzyBills folder. So you don't actually have to interface with EzzyBills, so to speak, directly. You can do it from your email account. And if you set it up in an automated way, then EzzyBills will basically process every single document that comes through that email address. So if you've got an account at email address, and you know that, everything that comes through to your account at email address is an invoice, then you might want to set up the automated sync. Now, for sale invoices, you basically would want to use this email rule. So if the email is from a certain supplier, then you process as a sale invoice. So if you wanted to activate that email rule, you would click on it, click on this, and then you would put in the email address that your sale invoices come from. So let's say they come from, I don't know, no reply at customerp.com.au as an example. I obviously just made that up. And that would basically be how you would process sale invoices that way. And just a general point about the email rules, you can also set these email rules for supplier invoices to help make sure that if you do get documents that come through to your email that are not meant to be processed to EzzyBills, then it won't process them, because once a document gets processed through EzzyBills or tried to be processed through EzzyBills, we do count it towards the quota. So that's email rules, and then the last way is workflows. So I think I'll probably leave that till the end. I'll speak about workflows at the end, probably with the different document types. But you can also do sale invoices with the various workflows. Okay. So the next thing we're going to mention is matching supplier invoices with purchase orders. So usually when I do these demos, we talk primarily about accounting software, Xero, Maya, QuickBooks, and all of the functionality is the same. But I think when we're talking about matching supplier invoices with purchase orders, I think it's really important just to mention our integrations with Deer and Simpro. So outside of the main three pieces of accounting software that I've just mentioned, Deer and Simpro are the other two pieces of software that we've got probably the most robust integrations with and the most customers using. So Deer is an inventory management software and Simpro is a project and job management software. And the integrations with these pieces of software rely on PO matching pretty much exclusively. So the way that those integrations work is you would raise a PO in either Deer or Simpro. You'd have the information in that system, and then you would link your EzzyBills account through an API connection with Deer or Simpro. And when you get your supplier invoice that comes through, then you can send it through to either of those pieces of software. And if the purchase order has been fulfilled completely, it'll be receipted. And if it hasn't been fulfilled completely, then it'll stay open. So for example, if you've got a purchase order that you send out to Bunnings for 10 hammers and they send 6 hammers and 4 hammers are on back order, it'll add those 6 hammers to the purchase order. It'll mark, it'll say it's received the 4 hammers, and it'll leave the purchase order open until you receive the other 4 hammers. The same with Deer, and the same basically applies with our sort of PO matching in EzzyBills. So there's sort of 2 ways of bringing or having a purchase order in your accounting software, which I'm sure you're familiar with. One is actually generating the purchase order in your accounting software, which is probably the case in most instances if you're using just your accounting software without a third party such as Deer or Simpro. And then you can match the supplier invoice, which I know for a lot of people saves a lot of time in terms of the double handling. So we're just going to jump back to the aliases that we were talking about a few minutes ago in the settings and account settings menu. And if your purchase order was generated from an external system, meaning not from your accounting software, and you want to bring it into your accounting software, you can send it to yourcompany.purchase@ezzybills1.com, where your company is actually the name of your EzzyBills account. So in each of your EzzyBills account, you'll have a list of upload aliases similar to this. And then when you want to match the purchase order, when you want to match the bill, when you get the invoice through, then you would send it to your company.matchpo@ezzybills1.com. And that will go back to the original purchase order, match it, and receipt it. So that's another little use case that we can do that, again, if you're working with purchase orders, probably can be pretty helpful and save a lot of time. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is statement reconciliation, and we can do statement reconciliation as well as remittance advices. So we've been able to do statement reconciliation for a while. The remittance advice functionality is something that's been recently added, probably towards the end of last year, in response to customer feedback. And that's something that I always like to throw out when I'm doing demos, when I'm speaking to customers, that we're very open to feedback from our customers. If there's things that you think we don't have, or we could be doing better, or there's new functionality you'd like us to build, we've got many examples of features and functionality that you're probably using now as you use our software that really we built because customers told us that it was something they needed. And we found that, generally speaking, if it's a pain point in one customer's business, it's probably a pain point in a lot of customers' businesses. So that's just a bit of a side note about the remittance advices. But basically the way the statement reconciliation feature works, and I'm just going to kind of show you a bit of a snippet of how it works, is that if you get a statement emailed to you from a supplier and it's got a list of all the invoices that you owe them, you might have some invoices that have been paid, some invoices that are owing, some invoices that don't exist. And basically what you can do, and you can see this in EzzyBills in the app section, one of our what we call apps is called statement reconciliation. And again, just as a side note, all of these apps in the top section of this page are not really apps. They're functionality that's built into our product that is included with your EzzyBills subscription. So they're part of the product. They come with your subscription. There's no extra charge, and we're happy to help you use any of them that are relevant. The ones at the bottom are obviously external integrations that usually come with an external cost, but we integrate those as well. And as you can see, we've got Simpro and Deer listed there, like I mentioned before. So if you click on the app that you are interested in, you sort of get a bit of a how-to. And so in order to use the statement reconciliation feature, you want to send an email to yourcompany.app.sr@ezzybills1.com, and that'll basically tell EzzyBills that you're sending through a statement and you want it to sort of look into your accounting software, check to see the status of the statements, and then come back to you with a report. So I'm going to run one for you. Okay, so we'll send an email to your company.app.sr, and we will include a statement. And just like in other EzzyBills functionality, you don't need a subject, you don't need a body in the email. You can just send it through as an attachment, and EzzyBills will do the processing. So if we go back to our dashboard, we should be able to see that starting to process in a few seconds. There it is. We can see that starting to process. It's turned light green. And you'll see in a second that you've got this sort of third shade of green that you might not be used to in your EzzyBills account. That's usually the color that statements process to when they're processed. So the general invoices, which is probably what you're usually familiar with, come to this sort of bright green tile when they're processed, and the statements turn into this sort of olive green when they're processed. Okay, and I guess I'll just show you while that's processing remittance advice is the same thing. So the statement reconciliation would be yourcompany.app.sr@EzzyBills1.com. And then this is the remittance advice. So it would be yourcompany.app.ra@EzzyBills1.com. And like I mentioned before, it's the exact same process. You email the remittance advice in and it'll go through and it'll look at the sale invoices instead of looking at the supplier invoices. Okay, let's see how that's going. Okay, so we can see that it successfully exported a report. We can click on that SR report. And it just so happens that in my Xero file, I don't have any of these invoices. So basically the report has come back saying that all of the invoices are missing. But in your Xero account or in your accounting software, you probably will have most of the invoices there or paid. And under status, instead of saying missing, if it's missing, it'll say missing. If it's paid, it'll say paid. If it's awaiting payment, it'll say awaiting payment. And you get this statement in two ways. So you can see it from the dashboard, like I just showed you when you click on that SR report. And I don't know if you also heard the ding in my email, but we also send you an automatically generated email so that in your email, you will also have the same report. And that email will go to the person who gets the notifications on the account. So if one person's running the report and another person needs to get the notifications, you'll just need to make sure that the notification emails are set appropriately or that is just forwarded along to the person who needs to see it. Okay, and like I said, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go. Okay. So we are going to move on to email aliases. So again, I've mentioned these a few times and shown you a few of the different alias types. We'll just talk about a couple more and maybe run a couple of sample documents just to show you what those look like. So another one of the more popular email aliases we've got are credit notes. So your company.creditnote@EzzyBills.com. And we do process credit notes sort of on both sides. So we do purchase credits and sale credits. We are able to process with the credit note feature. Usually the system picks it up by itself. So if you just send it to your regular EzzyBills email address, usually we will be able to identify a credit note because of the words on the credit note and because it sort of looks different in terms of the line items than an invoice. But if for whatever reason it doesn't process through the regular channels, then you can definitely send it to your company.creditnote@EzzyBills1.com. Now, the other ones that I want to talk about are not particularly aliases in and of themselves, but they're ways of attaching certain types of documents to your invoice. So generally speaking, you send through an invoice, this EzzyBills extracts the line item details, it puts the details into your accounting software. You've got a copy of the invoice with the extracted details, and then you approve it and you move on with your workflow to pay the invoice or whatever your next steps are. There's two other email aliases that can be used alongside with that, and that's the .save email and the .invoice with attachment, which personally I find to be really helpful features. So the .save email feature basically takes the email that you've sent along with the invoice and brings it into your accounting software. So if I'm sending in a supplier invoice and I write an email that says, "Hi, this invoice is related to the food for the staff Christmas party," and I use the your company.save email at EzzyBills1.com, then when I when that document goes into my accounting software, that email will be saved along with the invoice. And the same with attachment. So if I send the document to yourcompany.invoice with attachment, apologies that it's so long, at EzzyBills1.com, it'll do the same thing. So I'll just show you a couple of those that I've kind of processed earlier, just to show you the process of what it looks like in EzzyBills. So here you can see this green tile has a hashtag attachments1 at the bottom. So that means we know that that's been imported into Xero along with an attachment, at least, well, one attachment. If there were two attachments, it would say two attachments. And then when we go into Xero, we can see all the extraction, which is pretty straightforward. We can see the thumbnail of the document, which is also pretty straightforward, but here you can see it says previewing 2 of 2. And when we click on that little arrow, we can see another document. So this was sent with the .save email. And when we download that email, I'll just open it in bigger so you can see, when I sent in the document, this was the email I wrote. Hi, here's a Bunnings invoice from the supplies I purchased for the new development in Sorrento. So that was the email that was sent to the yourcompany.save email at EzzyBills1.com. So you can see that has come through and that will be saved. So that's a way of knowing who sent in the invoice. It's a way of somebody sort of leaving a note about what the supplies are for. So that's really helpful. And then the next one, I believe is this one. Unless that's the same one. Let's see. Sorry, that's the same one. So this one was sent with the dot with attachment. And so the attachment that I sent through was an image about us exhibiting at the Accounting and Business Expo next week. So I'm going to put in a bit of a shameless plug. If anybody's in Sydney, we're going to have a booth at the Accounting and Business Expo. We'll be there Thursday and Friday, and it would be great if you could stop by. So as you can see, this is the invoice. These are the line items like we usually extract. And if you move to the next document, you can see that the email that I sent through had this Accounting and Business Expo image basically attached to it. I sent the email with the dot with attachment, and so that came through to my accounting software as well, and that'll be saved there in Xero again. So anybody can go back and look at that at a future date. Okay, so we are going to move on now to workflows. And really the topic of workflows is endless with EzzyBills. We run webinars specifically on workflows. We've run webinars specifically on approval workflows. We've run webinars on sort of general workflows. So that's how a lot of the kind of engine behind EzzyBills is run, using specific and unique workflows. So I'm just going to mention a couple of workflows at a high level. So back in EzzyBills, we're going to go into our workflow tab. And so this is basically the standard workflow, right? We look at the document, we extract the information from the document, and we export it into Xero. If you're processing different types of documents, what we can do is we can set a workflow task in our workflows called set document type. And we would just bring that into the bring that into the workflow, let's say. And then when we click on the set document type box, it gives us the option to add a different type of document. So for example, if we're going to be processing, credit notes or spend money transactions or purchase orders or all sorts of different things, we can basically set the document type as whatever we want to set it as. And then when we're processing to that workflow, the EzzyBills system will process as that type of document. And then there'd be a unique upload email address for each workflow. So that's probably not a great example because that's a workflow that can't really be modified. But if we're going to create a new workflow, we could create the workflow. Then we can have this set document type. Come through. And like I showed you before, we can add it to our workflow. We can save it. We can rename it. Let's just say, I don't know, purchase orders. We can then go back to our document subtype, and I apologize that this might be getting a little bit technical. We can change the document type to credit note as an example, save it, and then we will have a workflow that says your company.workflow.purchaseorders@ezzybills1.com, and we'll be able to process purchase orders that way. And like I mentioned, we can do this with any document type, and if that looked a bit overwhelming with the code, no worries. If it's something that you're interested in, our team is always happy to help set that up. Okay, just to kind of mention a couple other document types and a couple other workflows, doesn't fall so squarely into the theme of the webinar, but a couple other things that I just wanted to mention. So one of the other types of workflows we can set up, and I guess this is a specific document type, would be a case where you want to convert a supplier invoice into a sale invoice. And so that's basically what we call our drop shipping workflow. So this would be a case where you've got a drop shipping business, you receive goods from a supplier, you pay them a certain amount, and then you want to increase the price by a certain percentage. So let's say that I am selling computer monitors and I sell them for, I pay $100 each for the computer monitors and I resell them for $150 each. We can basically set up a workflow that says, when you get documents from a certain supplier, receive them as supplier invoices, add $50 or add 50% or add 75% or whatever it is to the invoice, and then convert to a sale invoice. And then you've basically got the sale invoice that you're able to send across to your customer when they're buying those computer monitors from you. And a final document type that I'm going to mention is NDIS. So one of the unique capabilities we have, and I guess a lot of the stuff that I've spoken about today is a little bit more sort of unique and niche capabilities, but one of them is being able to process NDIS documents with the NDIS extracting the NDIS supplier codes and the NDIS participant codes and any other information that's relevant for NDIS. So again, that's just a different type of document. So if your business works with clients that are on the NDIS or they have clients who are on the NDIS, we can also set that up using workflows where that specific NDIS document data is extracted into the software. So I think that is it for me for now. We'll open it up to questions. I know there haven't been really any questions so far, which is fine. But if you've got any questions about anything I've spoken about or anything that I've showed you, feel free to pop them in the chat. And while I'm giving you a minute to think, I know I already put in a little bit of a plug earlier in the demo for the Accounting and Business Expo in Sydney, which we'd love to see you at. We're also going to be exhibiting at the Xero Roadshows in Melbourne and in Brisbane. The one in Melbourne's coming up this Tuesday. I will be there. The one in Brisbane's coming up mid-May, and some of my colleagues will be there as well. So if you're in any of the three kind of major cities, Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane, it would be great to see you. Both the Xero Roadshow and the Accounting and Business Expo are free for attendees. So you're welcome to stop by if you're in the area. There's going to be some really interesting tech products and sessions and seminars. So I think after many of us have been stuck at home for a while, it'll be a nice way to get out and do some networking with other people in the industry. Okay, so we just had Gareth message that can't make it to the roadshows unless we head up to Broome in the Kimberley. So we'd love to make it up to the Northern Territory. We were invited to a conference in the Northern Territory. We're not entirely sure yet if we're going to join, but we will definitely keep in touch if we head up that way. Any other questions? Questions, comments, things we missed, other types of documents that you want us to be able to process? We have all of our walk-in or cash sale customers under one MyOb card. Can I add my sale invoice or assign it to one customer? Let's have a chat about that offline, Kat. I think it's possible. But probably beyond what I can answer right now. So just send me an email, or probably even better, just to copy and paste it to our support team, and we can help you set that up. Okay, so it looks like that's probably it for now. Like I said, you've got my email, you've got our support team's contact details, you've got our phone numbers in Australia and New Zealand. Thanks again so much for joining, and hopefully we will see you next month. Thanks, everyone.